Hello, we are here today to cast a replay. I only just woke up about 10 minutes ago. I did say I cast this like 2 days ago or something, and I've been really busy, so just hop right into it and see what this is all about. So we have It Depends, which, you know, it depends. We have Sipiac, or Sipiac, Sciatica. We have a fucking crow, and we have iSarCasm. I think that this is the replay that was submitted for casting, and I believe that the iSarCasm individual is, again, one of the new individuals who's shown up to get acquainted, learn how to play, and It Depends is preparing TH oven. That's the THC oven, I guess. You know how it is. It's easier to hotbox your room if you just burn a whole bunch of it all at once, so he's just setting the burners to weed. Looks like Peppo's gonna go for a fulcrum first, given by the mass gas. We have a very, very intense palette shift on this map that does cause me a bit of eye strain. And fairly early scout from Mr. Man, who's going off in the middle of nowhere. Oh, and Peppo is also going off in the middle of nowhere. So Victory Square, one of the maps we've seen a little bit within Ascension, but generally not a lot of. Soon I'll be getting into the clusterfuck that is mapping myself. I have been salad tossing the idea of a Starcraft vanilla campaign remaster, telling the intense story of Chris Raynor Metzen and his self-cessed escapades with Thrall, who is the war chief. Of course, employing colorful characters such as Tassadar, who I would plan to be voiced by a Polishman, and Zeratul, who would be voiced by a tool. These scouts are so depressing. I like how he went back home. He didn't bother to check his face. He's just like, fuck this. I know where he is. I'm just gonna go back home now. Peppo is still looking. He went double gate. There's just not any pressure coming out. Nobody has any idea where each other is. Oh, there's a new Dracodon. Now, one thing I did forget to mention is that I have no idea if this is the right version or not. I think it is, but I don't know if it is. So, Peppo said I may not need to. The cunt. Look at this cunt here. This is absolutely cuntish behavior. This is what you gotta watch out for when you're dealing with Peppo. Is he's a cunt, right? Like, he's an actual cunt. He's learned to be a cunt. I've taught him how to be a cunt, and I think just in general it comes with the line of having what did he call it? The Widow's V or something. I think it just turns people into cunts. So you can't get too rattled by the cuntish behavior early on in the game. You've got to resist him. You must resist the cuntish behavior. You gotta grab him by those long golden locks of hair of his and hang him up to dry, and then hope that it doesn't start cawing angrily at you when the sun turns to a crow clip. So it did take some effort to kill those vultures, but just coming down here, I got some blackjacks. The damage is not terrible because of the 2 armor pen, but they do lose efficiency the more damage you deal to them, so an all-in is kind of more or less necessary here. He only has enough to all-in at this moment. He's going to attempt to go for it. Some of these units are a little weak in there. 4th one did pop out. He didn't manage to kill him now. A little bit of split attention. The ramp cucking his vision there. So if this all-in fails at this point, you need to pull back, right? Like, at this stage, you're just not going to accomplish anything. Question mark? Question mark? The fuck is that? Black. I still say the Blackjack's feet need some adjustments to them. Well, the Terran and graphics in general need some adjustments to them. Of course, if you were watching chat, you would see that I had some ambitions of using some of those old Retribution assets I made way back in like 2013. They'd make suitable replacements for Terran air units. They just need some adjustments, perhaps. Now, iSarCasm is not making any workers here. He was cutting workers for this. He needs to start making workers. He's getting a grand library. The Blackjacks are moving out. I've had to deal with mass Blackjacks a couple times. I think he should be fine here. There shouldn't really be any issues. Pulling back is definitely the wrong move to make. Especially when half of your units are attacking and the other half are not. That's also not terribly efficient. You wanted to kill these Matadors that were dropped over here, but again, you know, it kind of reminds me of when we were up against, I forget who it was. It was one of the replays I casted, but he like lost half of his units in his choke when he pulled back to deal with a drop, and that's kind of an issue, right? Like he lost workers, but he also lost a chunk of his. It doesn't even look like he even lost that many workers because he just didn't have that many to begin with. You know, it looks like he lost. Oh, I see. They're all bundled on the gas here, and he forgot about them. So that's not very good. But yeah, he didn't like decisively pull back, so he lost a bunch of his Draconians in addition to losing the workers. It's not very good. This dude's really struggling here. I wonder if we're decent. I always have to ask that question. We'll know if Popo starts floating a lot, right? So, he does have the Cantavis. All of his workers are still bundled here. So, he's, you know, he's still making workers. Still alive, kind of. So the Nabli Seal has arrived. I like to coin this as the Nabli Seal because it's what he's done fucking forever. This dude has forgotten about his workers completely. I think he's really struggling. I don't think it's decent. I think he's just really struggling because he's forgotten. They're all. You tell, because I was looking at this, I was like, the shadow looks really dark. There's a reason for that. It's because they're all bundled on each other. The fact that workers lose collision when they harvest is one of the goofiest things in the game, to be honest. Oh, Popo's gonna help remind him he has worker. Oh, and he's gonna thin the herd. Oh, he didn't kill it. Popo wasn't paying attention. You can do it, man. You can remember you have work. Okay, you got the one. It's like if you just glance at it, you won't think to notice that detail. But he has to. Maybe he just thinks the Matadors killed all of his workers, but they didn't. They killed like 3 of them, and Wraith killed 1. Now he has so many more. He's almost at Popo's worker count. He just. If you look at the top, and you see workers, military units, and you have 29, 30 workers, and you look at your bases, like doesn't really look like 30 workers. It's because. It's because it isn't. Oh, goodness. So, Popo is just doing this little bit of tickling. He has been on this Blackjack Matador binge trying to justify their existence. And I still remember that FFA where he dropped like 30 Matadors on top of my Solarian. That's why he says Matadors are good against Solarians, is because I literally built nothing but some stack defense and a Solarian. And by stack defense, I mean like 1 matrix. And of course, when he had like 30 Matadors, it forced the... Suddenly there's workers! Oh, this poor man is being bullied. Oh, that was tragic. You know what, though? You know what? While losing the pylon may be a psychological blow to iSarCasm, at the very least, he's been reminded that he has, like, another 10 workers than he thought he did. His economy is actually going to increase as a direct result of this attack. How often is it you get attacked by someone, lose units and structures, and come out better for it? This is such a case. Absolutely such a case. Popos. So that just confirms it wasn't desync. That Popo was just as bamboozled about that as I was. Goodness. It's okay. He remade his cantamus. Oh dear. You know, Popo had gone straight for tier 2. I think this game would have already been over. Honestly. But he's getting his tier 2 now. Yes, he's been on this binge of trying to make those units work. The Blackjacks are a pretty good unit. Matadors are all right, but they're really situational. Again, his Solarian reference was literally the dumbest example I could think of. And, you know, that was like post-nerf Solarians too, right? So I struggled more with the issues, the bugs they had at the time of the inconsistent attack range than anything like that. Which has been fixed, I believe, since their deployment range was reduced, but the acquisition range was not, or something like that, so this guy's actually doing some Storm drops, which I don't think are nearly as good as they used to be, on top of Storm being very heavily nerfed in terms of its burst damage, and also the fact that workers are more durable, and the cost is heavy, and Popo just kind of murdered it. He didn't even get a chance to even try it. Of course, the channeling of it, right? Like, it's not quite as easy just to burst them. Now, maybe Popo will build for us the new Madrigal, and we'll get a look at that as well. So the Madrigal received some minor adjustments to it. It's, I believe the Furia mode, the worker deletion mode, now fires sequentially based on its targets as opposed to all at once. A desperately needed change for what was absolutely a very, very problematic unit, even when it's been nerfed so many times. Keep in mind, they used to like 2 or 3 shot workers. And then, like I mentioned in Ascension, Shambler has been receiving a lot of calluses of magical drops, and that's why he's so resistant to it, because he had to endure the lashes of spanking before they started getting their nerfs. I believe that even I magical dropped him, but I know Popo definitely did. So again, you know, 2 armor, pen, reasonable attack speed, particularly when at full health, and getting in a couple extra worker kills. There's his saturation is not amazingly high. He's, yeah, still obviously just learning, just kind of struggling, but Popo is willing to help him up. Popo's not going to show us the magical. He's going to go for captaincy, so he saw this in one of the other TVPs I casted. Can't remember if it was up against It Depends or someone else. Newt? No, I don't think it was Newt. Maybe it was Newt. No, I don't remember. There's so many new people, and I got so much of my own shit I'm trying to do on top of Ascension. Honestly, it's so hard for me to keep track of all these games. But he still wants to try the Cantavis start. He's going to go for over here, but there are 2 Matadors over here. They also do very high upfront damage. Honestly, the Matador's attack stats are very good. The issue is that it's very hard to make use of their deployment, and they are a gassed investment. So while the Matador itself as a unit is decent, you do take quite a hit economically to really invest into them, which means you feel very pressured to use them aggressively as much as possible. He made an effort. They do have a channel time now. He almost reached the golden road. It's possible that if he had been just ever so slightly faster in the execution, he might have made it. So Popo's going to go for Tinker's Tower. I believe that's going to be Strigos et al. And there is an Argosy. So we'll get to see them. The Solarian was definitely, I feel very responsible for this. I told this to Popo, I feel very responsible for the Solarian being what it was, because we played so much PvT early on, and by early on I mean like a year ago, or close to a year ago, something like that. And Solarions were not performing very well. But I believe that's also when Sentinels had anti-air as well. So there was a lot that worked against them for Terran. And you had just real struggles to make them succeed. So they got gradually buffed over and over and over again. And then the Empyreans got nerfed. Right. But Solarions were behind another structure than the Argosy. It cost like 500 gas or something like that. Maybe 600. So it's hold that thought and hold that penis. We're finally gonna see. Oh, he died. That was a good target selection there, killing the Apostle. You knew to kill the Apostle first, so you'll deal with this pretty handily. And Popo might have seen the Argosy, particularly when the Trojan flew over. I don't know if he thought to click on it and see what it was, or if he caught vision of this one here, but it is going to be Solarians. If this is going to desync, it's going to desync now because the Solarians fix may or may not be in this version. Oh man, pizza. I could go for some pizza, dude. But I prefer to cook my pizza in my thighs, honestly. It's easier. So something's kind of buggered with the chat. Anyways, we're going to see the Striga and the Siren composition, I guess. So, Solarians have received another armor, so they're at 6 armor now. But the armor pen is down, and I believe Stewards may be a little bit easier to kill, I'm not entirely sure. They had 5 armor pen. Because before, obviously, buildings it was really hard for them to deal with buildings. But 5 armor pen meant that they gutted tier 3 Terran air very easily. Like, very easily. Now, these units that we're seeing right now, the Siren et al., I don't know about them. They have a split attack here, 5x5. Listen, turtling is quite effective. This is my kind of style that this dude's doing here, is choke out the map. But he's not being very aggressive about trying to choke out the map quite yet. It's Popo's being a little lax in his defense. And this attack here is a little half-hearted. I think he was hoping to bait out the military. These people might actually know each other, I'm not sure, or he's just referring to him in general. So Popo already has the answer for dealing with the Solarians, which is Sundogs. And Sundogs, basically, before you currently in Ascension, you really need to have Sundogs to easily deal with them when they reach a large, even like a moderate number. At a low number, things like Mavericks, Watchdogs, stuff like that will just happily kill their stewards very easily. But in here, I'm not sure yet. This will be interesting. So 3 armor on those. There's a lot of focus fire coming in here, so we shouldn't have too many problems. There is some micro they can use to help split their targets a little bit, but health values in this are higher than those in Brood War, so I'm not so sure how useful that micro actually is. There just wasn't enough Solarians to deal with that. The ground units are being engaged over here, but the Draconans should quite easily mop that up. The one dies there with low health. These get pulled into the Popo. I don't know what he was doing with those there. He, like, control gripped them and sent them all down. They died miserably. Whereas there's definitely some split damage, so you want to go onto the sledge here and focus fire them. He is focus firing them now, but he can even deny them vision and access. This feels like League of Legends with the manner question marks. Oh! Just ran up there, grabbed him by the scrotum, twisted, and run away. So iSarCasm's floating an absolutely ungodly amount of resources. When you're at this stage, what you do is you build more production. And then you hotkey them. So in the case of the Argosies, he has enough for another Argosy, drop it down there, stick a Crucible here so they build faster. There you go. Now you want to add in the Crucibles at this point. There'll definitely be some mathematical equation that somebody who's actually gone to a real country that has a real education system and not Canada can put together that tells you what's the most efficient point to build a Crucible as opposed to another production building. Well, personally, I feel like it's kind of around this point. And so it'll buff your defenses. You can stick some engrams there too, and that'll help stop some of that. Like, engrams would have shut down that attack right away, basically. It would have annihilated all the Sun Dogs. For sure. They wouldn't have been able to dive you. Like, if you're doing this, it pays to have a couple of engrams on hand that your units can go into, especially when that happens. Like, now that you know Sun Dogs are there, it definitely helps to have some defenses there. Meanwhile, Pr0nogo's discovered the existence of 1,000 secret bases and is going to go step on them. But there are a handful of defenses over there, not really a lot. Just gonna get in some kills, just kind of hold position. Again, Pr0nogo is gonna be a cunt. So the Dragoons, obviously, the new graphic for the Draconin, very much a work in progress. He's diving into here, that's not very good. They're not really in that much danger for taking damage, but the stewards will take a fair bit more, spreading out further. I don't think Pr0nogo is really in a lot of danger for this. He's going to be taking damage from it, but he should be able to hold it for a while. Meanwhile, he's shutting down like almost half of his opponent's economy at this point. He's higher in worker kill or worker count. He also is almost at tier 3. So we can kind of see some of them. Just looking at their health values here, trying to get a bead on how much damage they're actually taking. It's not really a lot. So Pr0nogo is gonna start, like, I find that when this happens, Pr0nogo immediately just starts attacking random places in the map. So, you know, like, this can happen. You can prepare for this, but if you don't prepare for it, if you're not accustomed to playing against this cuntish behavior, that's when this happens. You know, then it actually starts being effective. And like I said, none of these are really defended that heavily. He did just kind of come over here and kill that. This is being attacked, there's no defenses at all, like, no engrams, nothing of that nature. He certainly has had the money for it. Now, the Amaranths are dealing with this here, and they're actually blocking the shots, it looks like, so. Pr0nogo's not in too bad of a spot, and he can definitely deal with this. He can absolutely sacrifice his base willfully and let it fall, and just build up his response. His response can be to bring a bunch of madcaps over here for when they pressure down, let them engage, destroy a bunch of stewards to take minimal damage possible, and then just run in there and snipe them with the Sun Dogs. So this is absolutely not a game-ending set of Solarions, but if they get out of control, like, they're gonna soon reach a point where he can't deal with them. So Pr0nogo did not bring his madcaps over here. He's actually, this is definitely the least efficient way he can engage it with the tools that he has available. Now he's bringing them up. But, you know, a little late, right? Like, his Sun Dogs already took damage. Almost killed one. So, now all the interceptors are dead. He can hold it for a while, but he still needs killing power. Meanwhile, I mean... oh, he's managed to pull out one kill in the middle of that, but... oh, he's got some apostles. Meanwhile. This shots. Well, there goes the Nexus for free. I don't know. He hasn't set anything over to defend those. He could have been building more Amaranths, more Drakons. He could have done something to stem the bleeding, but currently he's not. Oh, he has an army. He has an army over here. He could have protected this. Oh, this is Igor. Okay. Well, the apostles can just revive those. I don't understand what's going on. Yeah, and this dude only... this may be like the first day that he's playing, so he's still trying to... Maybe first or second. He was someone's friend who joined. Now he's in trouble. So what he could do at this moment is he can make Empyreans. Empyreans will give him the power to actually destroy this. Oh, Salamanders. I'm not sure if I feel that Salamanders are going to do a lot here, but Saros would be a good shout for sure. The Silver Tongues, however, that's going to be it. As soon as Popo figures out which one is low health, he can just poke it down. Or since the carrier's moved out in the open, he can just force a fight here. And he's trying to snap the Apostles. It's good. I can hardly tell which unit is a unit amidst all that. But cost efficient wise, it's now in Popo's favor, especially since all these... What a cunt. This is what I mean. Cuntish behavior. So Empyreans would have been very helpful about here. But I think it's getting too carried away at this point. Now he wants like up tectons. Like he actually needs like a tech switch to comfortably deal with that. Why is he moving that forward? Oh, it's gonna die for sure. Got him. So he finally sent his army over here to squash those, but he's gonna miss the secret base. Lobsters over here. Well, he's gonna be in trouble now. He's absolutely in trouble. He definitely wanted to have Empire. Oh, he is getting Empyrean. He has an Empyrean queued up. He's probably feeling a little overwhelmed at this point. There's even a blackjack in there with 2 kills. Oh, it died. Oh, it's alive again. XD. Oh, there, you got an apostle for free. You've been sniping them! He's taking your carriers! Ah, this is horrible. This is really building a... Popo can make his own engrams. Yeah, you really needed to pay attention to the rest of the map. If you had the money, you could have been making more Solarions than you could have killed. Could have made Empyreans sooner. Could have made Didacs to cloak your carriers so that they're less vulnerable. And really screw with the targeting. And Popo would have to constantly be manually retargeting. Yeah, there was, I mean, to me, like, the army battle was only like a part, like a small portion of the game. I think really, like, what a lot was told in this game was the right side of the map where Popo was allowed to stomp out like what 3-4 bases with basic impunity, and Igor wasn't able to respond in any manner to that. Like Popo lost a 1 base and that was it. And then they were effectively on even bases, except all of the Solarian momentum came to a halt when he refused to move around, change targets, try to funnel the units to something more advantageous, give the Solarians some support, so on, right? Like, that's just not really knowing the differences, right? He's still new, getting acclimated, so on and so forth. In his case, adding in a couple of Uptectons, just grabbing some Empyreans instead to deal direct damage, not relying on the stewards. You know, things like that. Maybe having Stargates for Exemplar. I think Exemplar would have not been that good against the tier 2. I think once the Silver Tongues come out, if you don't already have Empyreans out, you really need to have Uptectons to help deal with those. Or something like Archons to charge in while they're all attacking the stewards. Force them to choose between the targets. But the bigger issue for him was that he kind of ran dry on money. He couldn't build that stuff too much anymore because he didn't protect his bases. He didn't build defenses in most of them, and he only had like 2 cannons in one of them, and that wasn't going to stop a small spattering of units. And then when they were under attack, by the time he went to kill the Terran, they had already had lunch after a day well done. Everything was already dead. He wasn't able to do anything about it. It was just, you know, like complementary murdering the few units that were still idle there that Popo had just completely forgotten about. By then, the damage had long been done. Right. And that can most certainly just be as a result of him being, you know, trying to figure out what was going on, so his attention was split and so on. But he had a fair bit of pressure in mid-game. It just kind of evaporated at that point. Maybe he became too complacent in the mass carrier spam and reminiscent of Brood War days. Well, mass Marines can still deal with mass carriers in Brood War. It's still very similar interactions. Only in Brood War, it's also a sink of minerals, right? And an APM sink to keep building your interceptors when they're all dying terribly. So, it's not something you see very often, but it's always something to keep in mind that, yeah, the interceptors can be killed. And then in this, with the higher tiers, there are infantry that are better at killing interceptors. I mean, Popo is still taking losses from the free stewards. It was just he delayed it long enough to get his tier 3 so he could get the actual tools to really put pressure on them. And also, the Solarians moved down into the open. I think that even without the Silver Tongues, Popo was still poised to take that fight when the carriers moved out in the open where he could just get under them and start actually dealing damage to them directly. Right? Like, he had just amassed enough units. So the Solarians needed to hold the map so that he could get in the tools necessary to push in. Again, primarily, I would just go with Uptectons, just the burst damage. Then you don't have to worry about the Apostles. They'll just, 3 or 4 Uptectons will just mow through that army very fast. Just after the first couple waves of damage, most of the Apostles will be dead if they're anywhere near the front. And then the stewards can just kill the rest, right? But the macro for him really slipped at that point, for sure. So there wasn't really much of any support going on at all. It was just the 3 Argosies and the handful of Solarians. Nothing else to support it. No support in the rest of the map. He just got tickled to death. That was a very goofy game, though.